multicolored fireworks of sound, where each point of light appears and instantly disappears against a dark sky, was how composer, architect, and engineer Yannis Xenakis described his own music. I too regard music in much the same way, when, as in my piece Cityrama, I project patterns of sound onto the slanting facade of the Cheese Grater, a new building in the City of London. I'll play you an excerpt from Cityrama, where I dissect components of the Cheese Grater to reveal the building's musicality, a quality evident in only a few buildings. That type of manipulation is something I can do with relative ease. But Xenakis, of course, didn't have access to the digital tools we now take for granted in generating the invisible and flamboyant sounds of music. But just once, he did achieve his dream, a sonic space of continuous evolution, as he called it, when he produced the Philips Pavilion at the 1958 Brussels World's Fair. There, he created a place where music and architecture were bound together in intimate connection. I have this same dream, which is why I produce visual music. It's when the imagery of music is prompted by the indirect stimulus of memory that visual music gains an emotional response from audiences. For a composer, too, visual mental imagery evoked from previously stored information in his or her brain's long-term memory acts as a trigger for creating the emotions of music. That was the idea I explored in a piece called Abîme des Oiseaux, Abyss of the Birds, when I entered Olivier Messiaen's esoteric world of sound and color. For Messiaen, it was the shimmering stained glass of Chartres Cathedral that provided a lifelong source of inspiration, a place where he could indulge the sensory impact of his synesthetic world. You'll see glimpses of Chartres in this short excerpt from Abîme des Oiseaux. In later life, Messiaen overtly declared that his music was dependent on color, like the rose window of a cathedral with its flamboyant and invisible colors. A description which, as it happened, aptly described my visual interpretation of Abîme des Oiseaux. But how had this happened? It was only after I completed the piece that I realized that I'd been led unerringly to Messiaen's favorite rose window by the composer's synesthetic skills. It was his ability to accurately transmute a wide range of celestial colors into audible sound combinations that had enabled me to hear the colors that moved with his music. But how do our brains conjure up seemingly endless scenes of fantasy, particularly when we're listening to music? It's often argued that such experiences, like dreaming, have some therapeutic value by making us feel either more energetic or calmer. Stuart Coslin, in his book Ghosts in the Mind's Machine, describes mental images as private creations, scenes that transform the commonplace into the extraordinary. We don't have them all the time. They are transient. It can be assumed, therefore, that such images must be stored in our long-term memories in such a way that allows us to call on them when we want them. It's for this reason that Coslin regards unstable images formed in the mind's eye as quasi-pictorial ghosts. According to Coslin, who is a neuroscientist as well as a psychologist, three types of process operate on quasi-pictorial ghosts in what he describes as a visual buffer in the brain. The generation process creates an image from information stored in the long-term memory. Then, a process of inspection enables us to recognize the shape of the image. And finally, a process of transformation allows us to examine these images from all points of view. Over the centuries, these deeper ramifications of visual mental imagery have been the cause of an ongoing imagery debate. David Hume, in 1739, emphasized the great resemblance between percepts, that which we see with our eyes, and mental images. Other philosophers, including J.P. Sartre, argue that mental images have a radically different phenomenological status from percepts. The debate rages on to this day, with no sign of resolution. For me, the imagery debate raises the question, can I or should I try to manipulate or control listeners' visual mental images when I create a piece of visual music, when I know that an audience's responses might differ radically from my own very personal take on the music? I always answer yes to this question, with the proviso, as long as the visual interpretation I produce adds to listeners' experience of the music by arousing emotions that might otherwise lie dormant. New media art allows us to explore quasi-pictorial ghosts as never before. The crisp digital tools now available for visualizing music enable it to cast its magic spell far and wide. But there's a long way to go. Visual music as a form of art in mind gives rise to an inexhaustible source of extraordinary imagery and fireworks of sound, which demand new types of spaces where they can be felt, enjoyed, and experienced to the full. This is the challenge for the future.